There are many different types of ZEDs in KF2, and back when I was starting out, having played KF1 previously, I was not quite sure how to deal with all of these different ZEDs. I eventually got a grasp on how to properly beat them, but it took a while. So in this video, I will be giving you an effective overview of all the different types of ZEDs, along with other enemies, and how to beat them consistently. Let us begin. We will be going through the ZEDs and other enemies in the order of weakest to strongest, starting with the Clot-like ZEDs, the Cyst, the Clot, the Slasher, and the Elite Clot, the Rioter. For reference, the Rioter would not spawn normally, and instead has a percentage chance to replace the spawn of a Clot, depending on the difficulty. As you can see here, they will still spawn in endless mode, no matter the difficulty, but they will not buff other ZEDs if the difficulty is normal or hard. I will explain what the buff is later. The Cyst is particularly weak against assault rifles, plus 50% damage, but they are all also weak against SMGs, plus 50% damage, with a slight weakness to handguns, plus 1% damage. Whilst being strong against bludgeoning, minus 10% damage, slashing, minus 15% damage, this would not apply to basic knives, and microwave, minus 75% damage. The weak point for each of them is the head. All but the Rioter will go down quite easily. The Slasher is able to perform an evasive role on higher difficulties though, so time your shots against them well. Be aware, as they all, apart from the Rioter, often spawn in high numbers, and so their grab attack, the Rioter cannot grab players though, can pose a problem for getting away from more dangerous ZEDs because of this. Regarding the Rioter, they have armor on their head and chest, and although they cannot sprint whilst armored, they cannot be damaged in their armored areas until the armor there is destroyed. They will enrage when losing their armor, and they also have triple the health of a regular Clot. For their rally buff, Rioters can buff nearby ZEDs, increasing their damage by a percentage amount and causing them to sprint more often. The buff will last for 10 seconds and affected ZEDs will have a glow applied to them. The damage boost is as being shown here, depending on the ZED. Bosses cannot be buffed by them. If you have a powerful enough weapon, taking them out with a headshot is the best way to deal with them, but if not, shoot at their unarmored legs to take them out with several shots. You will have time to place the shots, so aim well and they will go down consistently. Try to take them down as soon as you see them, before they buff other ZEDs, making it harder to get to them. We will now move on to a rather plump fellow, the Bloat. The Bloat has no weaknesses, but takes neutral damage, plus 0% damage, from EMP, unexploded explosive weapon rounds, and freeze-based weaponry. It is strong against microwave, minus 20% damage, explosives, minus 50% damage, assault rifles, minus 65% damage, except the AR-15 which is just minus 60%, handguns, minus 65% damage, except the 9mm, which is just minus 35%, SMGs, minus 65% damage, bludgeoning, minus 70% damage, rifles, minus 70% damage, slashing, minus 70% damage, piercing, minus 75% damage, shotguns, minus 75% damage, and toxic, minus 75% damage. The Bloat will spew bile at players when it gets close enough, hindering your vision and eating away at your health and armor, and if players are point blank with it, it will try and hit them with its cleavers. The Bloat's weak point is its head, but if it is not killed with a headshot, it will explode, coating nearby players with bile, and above normal difficulty, it will leave behind puddles of bile that will explode into poisonous clouds when stepped on or shot. It can also block attacks, reducing damage by 10%, with any attacks to the cleavers dealing 80% reduced damage. The Bloat is still not too hard to take down, being slow and lumbering, with just a handful of headshots needed to make it unable to vomit for the last few seconds it remains alive, while decapitated, if not outright kill it. Following on from this, we have the Gorefast and the Gorefiend. For reference, the Gorefiend would not spawn normally and instead has a percentage chance to replace the spawn of a regular Gorefast, depending on the difficulty, as you can see just here. They are weak against shotguns, plus 60% damage, rifles, plus 25% damage, and assault rifles, plus 20% damage. They are strong against bludgeoning, minus 10% damage, fire, minus 15% damage, microwave, minus 15% damage, slashing, minus 20% damage, piercing, minus 25% damage, and toxic, minus 25% damage. They can block attacks, which reduces damage taken by 20%, and attacks to the blade, or blades, deal 90% less damage for the Gorefast, while dealing 80% less damage to the Gorefiend. If either has been decapitated, they will deal 50% less damage to you. Both of their weak points are the head. The Gorefast is not too hard to take down. A single headshot from powerful enough weapons will eliminate it. They will be able to damage you quickly as a group, so watch out for that though. The Gorefiend is a bit harder to take down, with a rapidly spinning blade attack and a larger health pool. Try for headshots if you can, but enough body shots will take it down soon enough. Moving on to two ZEDs you have to keep a lookout for, the Crawler and Elite Crawler. For reference, like other Elite ZEDs, the Elite Crawler would not spawn normally and instead has a percentage chance to replace the spawn of a Crawler, depending on the difficulty, as you can see here. They are both weak against assault rifles, plus 50% damage, and SMGs, plus 50% damage. They are strong against bludgeoning, minus 10% damage, fire, minus 10% damage, and microwave, minus 80% damage. Their weak point is the head. The Crawler and Elite Crawler attack quickly with their front claws, roll out of the way of shots on higher difficulties, and can also leap a short distance, either to also evade shots or towards players. The Elite Crawler will explode into a persistent cloud of poisonous gas when it dies, unless it is killed with a headshot. The Crawlers are easy to take down, but you have to keep a lookout for these ankle biters amongst swarms of ZEDs, as they can creep up on you whilst you're distracted with other ZEDs. It can be hard to get a headshot on an Elite Crawler, so try to keep an eye out for them so that you can take them down from a distance, where their gas cloud will not affect you or any other members of your team. We will now look at, or at least try to look at, our next ZED, the Stalker. She is weak against assault rifles, plus 50% damage. She is strong against SMGs, minus 10% damage. Fire, minus 15% damage. Rifles, minus 15% damage. Explosives, minus 25% damage, and microwave, minus 80% damage. Her weak point is the head. Stalkers can cloak, only appearing to strike at players. After taking damage, they will cloak once more, 0.35 seconds later if shot, a full second later if struck with a melee weapon. If they are decapitated, they lose the ability to cloak entirely. The Commando perk can passively see Stalkers, with detected Stalkers having a red outline around themselves, and the range at which they can see them increases as they gain levels. This ability is also granted to team members that are close to the detected Stalkers. If the Commando has detected a Stalker, then teammates can see them as well. If you know where a Stalker is, they are quite easy to take down. Make sure to listen out for the sounds they make, such as laughing, and if you have not got a Commando on your team, they still have a faint outline whilst cloaked. that you can use to track their position. We will now take a look at the Siren, but earplugs will be required. She has no weaknesses, but takes neutral damage, plus 0% damage, from bludgeoning, slashing, EMP, freeze-based weaponry, and all ballistic weapons, assault rifles, handguns, rifles, shotguns, and SMGs. She is strong against explosives, minus 15% damage, microwave, minus 15% damage, toxic, minus 25% damage, fire, minus 50% damage, and piercing, minus 50% damage. Her weak point is the head. Any attacks to her metal harness have their damage reduced by 50%. She is able to bite players at point-blank range, or attack with her characteristic sonic scream, which covers a notable area around her and ignores armor, directly damaging a player's health. This scream can also destroy explosive projectiles, any type of grenade, and blocks of C4 before they can be detonated. She is not too hard to take down, with one to the head from a powerful enough weapon, or a few good body shots being enough to eliminate her. Try to deal with her before she can scream though, as this not only damages you and your team, but makes it harder to eliminate her and surrounding enemies with any weapon her scream can neutralize. You will definitely want to watch out for this one. Next up, the Husk. The Husk is weak against microwave, plus 15% damage. It is strong against bludgeoning, minus 15% damage. Handguns, minus 15% damage, would not apply to 9mm pistols or the 1858 revolvers, though. Explosives, minus 25% damage. Slashing, minus 25% damage. SMGs, minus 25% damage. Toxic, minus 25% damage. Rifles, minus 30% damage. Assault rifles, minus 40% damage, fire, minus 50% damage, and piercing, minus 50% damage. Its weak points are the head and its backpack, with it not taking too much extra damage to the head, but still losing the ability to attack if decapitated, whilst taking 50% more damage to the backpack. Shots to its backpack can cause it to explode, killing the Husk and damaging nearby ZEDs, but not players. Shots to its cannon though will deal 50% less damage. Its attacks include typical long-range shots with its cannon, along with a weaker melee attack, and if it's low on health and near a player, it will try its self-detonating attack, causing high area effect damage. On higher difficulties, suicidal and above, it can also use its cannon to spray a jet of flame back and forth in front of itself, dealing high damage. Any of its flame-based attacks can set the floor/ground on fire. Try and hit this ZED's backpack if you can to take it out quickly, or headshots can be good enough too. It takes a while to fire each of its shots, so you can avoid them if you're paying attention. Try not to get too close to it, especially on higher difficulties, and you should not have too much of a problem with it, so long as you eliminate it quickly, otherwise it will be taking pot shots at you and your team whilst it remains alive. Following on from this, we have enemies that are not ZEDs, but robots, the E.D.A.Rs. For reference, they would not spawn normally but instead have the chance to replace the spawn of a Stalker or Husk, with the chance varying per difficulty, as you can see here. They are all weak against microwave, plus 325% damage, explosives, plus 150% damage, fire, plus 50% damage, bludgeoning, plus 25% damage, slashing, plus 25% damage, shotguns, plus 20% damage, assault rifles, plus 5% damage, and SMGs, plus 5% damage. They are strong against piercing, minus 15% damage, and toxic, minus 50% damage. Their weak point is not their head, but the power core in their chest. I made the mistake of thinking it was their head when they first came out, only finding out about their true weak point later on, with them only taking a minimal amount of extra damage to their heads, but 350% more damage to the power core in their chest. Losing their head will only cause them an accuracy penalty with their ranged abilities, as they cannot bleed out. Their chest and head are protected by armor that must be destroyed to damage the respective parts underneath. In addition, losing their chest armor removes their ability to sprint or evade attacks. Destroying their power core causes them to explode with an EMP blast that can damage nearby ZEDs, but not players. They all have a melee attack, along with a special attack as follows. The bomber E.D.A.R. has shoulder-mounted rocket launchers it can fire at you. These will knock down any non-boss enemies that they hit instead of their intended target. The blaster E.D.A.R. has twin laser blasters to fire pulses at players, and the trapper E.D.A.R. is capable of locking a player in place with a beam for 2.5 seconds. If you damage the trapper whilst it has you locked in place, you can break this beam early. As long as you aim for the chest on these E.D.A.Rs, you should take them down without too much of a problem. Just watch out for their different special attacks, learning how to best use them to your advantage. Next up, it's Chainsaw Massacre time again. We have the Scrake. The Scrake is weak against unexploded RPG-7 rockets, plus 300% damage, and Microwave, plus 10% damage. It is strong against shotguns, minus 10% damage, handguns, minus 20% damage, piercing, minus 25% damage, explosives, minus 60% damage, fire, minus 70% damage, and toxic, minus 75% damage. Their weak point is the head. Their attacks include various ways of striking you with their chainsaw, from an overhead swing to grinding you with it at point-blank range. Once their health drops to a certain percentage, varies by difficulty, see the thresholds just to the left, a Scrake will rage and begin chasing after players. Whilst raging, it can damage other ZEDs that get in its way, and once enraged, a Scrake will never calm down again. Scrakes can block attacks, reducing all damage taken by 10%, but they lose the ability to block once enraged. Attacks that hit the chainsaw deal 80% less damage. Additionally, Scrakes take 6 seconds to bleed out after being decapitated instead of the standard 5. You must be careful when you encounter a Scrake, and you need to take them out quickly should they enrage, as they will always be able to catch you. Aim for their head no matter your perk, and take them out if you're a high damage perk, e.g. sharpshooter or gunslinger, or call on your teammates to help you take one down together. Last of all, we have the two strongest ZEDs, the Quarter Pound and the Fleshpound. For reference, there is a chance that 2 Quarter Pounds will spawn instead of a regular Fleshpound. The Quarter Pound has no weaknesses, but takes neutral damage, plus 0% damage, from explosives, unexploded explosive weapon rounds, freeze-based weaponry, EMP, and microwave. The Fleshpound is weak to explosives, plus 50% damage. They are both strong against handguns, piercing, rifles, and shotguns, minus 25% damage for both. Bludgeoning, minus 38% damage for the Quarter Pound, minus 40% damage for the Fleshpound. Assault rifles, minus 38% damage for the Quarter Pound, minus 50% damage for the Fleshpound. Slashing, minus 38% damage for the Quarter Pound, minus 50% damage for the Fleshpound. SMGs, minus 38% damage for the Quarter Pound, minus 50% damage for the Fleshpound. Fire, minus 63% damage for the Quarter Pound, minus 70% damage for the Fleshpound. And Toxic, minus 69% damage for the Quarter Pound, and minus 75% damage for the Fleshpound. The weak points for both are the head and the glowing core on their chest. Both both of them can enrage after sustaining a certain amount of damage. When enraged, the light in their chest changes from yellow to red. The percentage chance for either of them to spawn already enraged on Suicidal and Hell on Earth is shown just to the left here. While enraged, they cannot dodge to avoid grenades, and rage will end for either of them based on two conditions: if they successfully land a hit on a player or Zed, or after not seeing a player for 30 seconds. Enraged Quarter Pounds and Fleshpound can damage other Zeds when charging, so these Zeds, or E.D.A.Rs, will attempt to get out of the way. When not enraged, they can both block attacks directed at them, reducing all damage taken by 10%. Attacks to their gauntlets always deal 80% less damage. Both of them will take 7 seconds to bleed out after being decapitated instead of the usual 5. You will have to act even faster against Fleshpounds and Quarter Pounds than for Scrakes, as they will both enrage a certain time after first catching sight of a player, or since the last time they became enraged, between 10 and 14 seconds. This frustration timer is not affected by how much damage they have taken. Explosive weapons will deal the most damage against both here, so get your demolitionist to focus on them, with them even being able to deal with multiple at the same time. If you have not got one on your team, everyone will have to try and focus on taking them down one at a time. High damage perks can get away with taking down multiple Quarter Pounds by themselves / with just a few of them and not the whole team having to focus on them together. So now you know all about the ZEDs and E.D.A.Rs of KF2, but where on a map will you fight them? Check out this video so you know where to hold down against them on each level. Holdout maps have their own complexities, so those will be covered in another video. Until next time, goodbye for now.